Good afternoon, everybody. Present here today, I'm Ms. Shwetambari Burade, moderator for this webinar. Welcome you all on behalf of Shan and Kakachi Engineering College, Mumbai, India. We at SAKEC Research Cell will take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you present here today for this hybrid webinar series, Innovative and Emerging Technology in the Field of Research, which is hosted in collaboration with over 25 plus national and international partners. With great pleasure, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Vishal Gandhi, who is going to talk on emerging technologies in global healthcare workflow automation. Mr. Gandhi is founder and CEO of Clinicspectrum Inc. He is healthcare workflow expert, which using hybrid workflow model. Before handing over to Sir, I would like to make an announcement to my attendees that if you have any queries or any questions that you wish to ask to our speaker throughout the session, you can ask it via the Q&A chat box. Frequently asked questions will be answered towards the end of the talk. The feedback link will be posted in the Q&A at the end of the webinar. So, handing over to you, Sir.
Thank you, Shwetambari. Let me kind of share my desktop.
So you're not audible.
Can you hold on one second?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Let me share my desktop. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see the presentation?
The content is not being shared yet.
Are you able to see that now?
Yeah, just a second. Yes. Can we go into the slideshow mode?
Yes, that's where I'm going. All right, everybody can hear me?
Yes, sir. Perfect. We can start.
Okay, perfect. So, guys, good morning. Thank you very much for an opportunity by, the Shwetambari and the college for giving me an opportunity to present on emerging technologies in healthcare, correct? Now, as healthcare has always been a current topic, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everything we do in life is for our health and wellness. Mind, body, soul, I call it, right? But the body is pretty important part. So being part of the US healthcare system for like almost 19 years and running a business, with 600-700 employees, what I've realized that healthcare is the only field or one of the only field that changes faster than, I would say a cell phone technology, right? We have seen how fast the cell phone technology changes, but healthcare is also similarly. 20 years ago or 30 years ago, if we think about healthcare, our perception is going to a physician, he's writing a script, we go to the pharmacy, and, probably still in India or many places, it could be that way, right? But the global landscape of healthcare is changing about connected health. What is a connected health? You are traveling to Bangalore from Bombay, right? And suddenly something happened to you and you go to a local clinic and the local clinic tried to treat you and he doesn't know that you're allergic to, for example, peanuts, or you're allergic to something, or you have a history of hypertension or your family history of diabetes, right? And he gives you a medication which is contraindicative. That means that medication can do more harm than a good. At the same time, he logs into a website, puts your unique identification and pulls your records, your family history, your past illnesses, correct? And suddenly he says, oh my God, this guy has this issue. So let me give the medication that will allow him to treat you without causing damage, right? That's connected health. So with this, my entire topic has been emerging technologies in healthcare. When I say emerging technologies, it is all about connected health. So as our next in the field of emerging technologies, I want to start with the telemedicine. Why? Because it's most relevant with today's pandemic with COVID-19, right? Now, if you are constantly locked in home and suddenly you have a symptoms, right? So in US, and I'm sure like many other countries, they utilize this extensively. In US, you know, we own a product called telemedicine product. Also like allows a remote visit by a physician and a patient, right? So if you are home and you suddenly your symptoms are there, more not necessarily could be COVID, could be anything else. Now you cannot travel, it's a lockdown. The physician is probably not open. Everybody is trying to stay safe, stay off the unnecessary patient, contacts with people or the air. And you're trying to do a safe environment. You want to consult a physician. How would you do that? I mean, obviously, Zoom and WhatsApp and Facebook and all that is absolutely fine for now, but that is, a lot of people say that's not a confidential platform. We have seen the stories where Zoom was hacked into, you know, but in a lot of countries, there are a lot of laws around that patient information should be very secure, cannot be revealed, and there's huge penalties and violations if that happens. So hence you definitely need a dedicated platform that allows a physician and a patient to interact in a social, very secure environment. And obviously you can do the entire virtual visit, and based on the visual physical exams, I call it, right? How the eyes are, how the throat is, or how the expression on the face, a symptomatic questioning, that what do you have, do you feel this, like that is called symptomatic questioning. You identify that this particular person could have an allergy or could have potential COVID, and then send it for testing, right? So telemedicine is the future. Now, telemedicine has not only revolutionized healthcare in last 10 years, but has made the healthcare available in the most remotest portion on planet Earth. You know that, like, I mean, I know most of you guys, if you follow the world news, the SpaceX is going to launch a Starlink satellite, right? That means whole around the Earth. He's going to put like all those in the orbits, use satellites that can literally geographically cover the internet in entire Earth, right? That means even a remotest corner of rural area in any part of the world, you could have an internet, right? That's the future. So Amazon is doing it, SpaceX is doing it. Very soon you will probably find that your internet speed, which right now being locked down, many of you guys who continue to study or using a hotspot or limited internet issue will resolve in next 5 years worldwide probably. So now if you are in probably say forest of some kind of forest or some kind of a remote area, and you need medical care, and the nearest, the big city is like 200 kilometers away, right? How are you gonna, by the time you reach there, obviously it's gonna take time. So there are two ways now people are evolving. They're okay, drones is one way where you can actually transport certain essential healthcare in a super fast way to the destination. That's a one way. And the second is a telemedicine. So people already have been in Africa and many other places have been extensively using telemedicine, where a physician on the other side stays in his clinic, guides the local healthcare workers, which you always find it, to do a basic precautionary things or immediate, we call it a first aid. And if there is an urgent need of supplies, correct, suppose it's a severe allergy reaction and you need to say EpiPen or some kind of medication, then using a drone from the nearest city, they can ship it. Obviously, because drone is still not is a control environment, because of the it has a potential of destruction as well, because you have a flying object that could be used towards any other destructory measure. But eventually obviously the life will evolve in next 5-10 years, where those will become more prominent through a regulatory mechanism. So the telemedicine is one of the topmost as of now, the emerging healthcare technology, allowing a provider and a patient securely interact with each other, collaborate with each other, and in turn take really the patient's health to a next level. Now, telemedicine has a tremendous utilization even since last 10 years without us knowing it in the complex surgeries across globe actually. So for example, AIMS, All India Medical, AIMS would perform a complex surgery and they need guidance from say neurologists from United Kingdom or from, for example, US, they always have been using this because they will keep the live telecast. YouTube has been there for many years. We all know that, right? So broadcasting has always existed. So they will broadcast the surgery live to the physician, and then he in turn will tell that, okay, don't do this, do this, like that kind of guidance has already been obtained and in practice. But because those equipments were very costly at that time, much the granular level penetration never happened. That means, you and me sitting at home can simply dial a phone on a video call using some kind of secure app and basically, do a visit with a physician without even moving from our house. That had never happened until all this, the speed of internet, the infrastructure, and obviously those kind of softwares came into existence, right? The next topic, this is telemedicine. So as part of the emerging technologies, this presentation is available with the college. They can always send you a copy of them. All of you guys, or many of you guys who are in healthcare IT, I call it, or in any kind of information technology, the largest segment of information technology creation, development, and distribution is in healthcare worldwide, actually. Financial and healthcare are the two industries that drive the revenue, practically revenue in all the IT fields, money and health. That two things drive the revenue, correct? So all of you guys, youngsters, right, who are focusing as your learning curve, and if you happen to be in technology field, yes, you need to know and you must know every piece of technology in money management and health management. I recommend that. In your free time, you should do research. You should really look into that, what's happening. So the next is obviously the Internet of Medical Things, right? We're going to talk about that. First, let me finish with this slide and tell you what our scope of today's presentation is, and we can dwell into one by one each topic. We are going to talk about artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about how the direct messaging, in basically connecting the different clinics, right? Interoperability, they call it. How does that, make sense? Some of this terminology is not known to healthcare systems in India. But as I told you, that the technology shift happens in a 10-year spell. What happens in the Western countries or developed countries 10 years before shifts to India 10 years after, correct? That's how it happens. Some of the core technology is available easily like telephone and all that, but overall adoption of technology, I call it. Accessibility is there everywhere across globe, but adoptability takes 10 years. So probably you will, if you are listening to these things, and you think, oh, we don't see that when we go to our doctors here, wait for 10 years. That means you are learning, you're starting your career or in the midst of your studies, 10 years, this has to happen. There is no solution beyond that, right? Robotic process automation is already happening extensively in India, and we'll talk about that. Obviously, the next is web scraping and digital signature and the automated messaging, right? So this is a scope. We'll dwell into one by one so first let's understand the healthcare ecosystem. Now healthcare ecosystem, irrespective of what part of the world you are, it is the same. Why it is the same? Because no matter what part of the world you are, you do have a physician, you do have a clinic, you do have a hospital, correct? You do have places of care, you do have a place where you are hospitalized, you do have a place where you get operated. All these are pretty much common parameters, correct? So if I look at the perspective that, as this presentation from my side is obviously to show you that all the presenter will always present what is their expertise in life. Our expertise is workflow automation. That's what we have done for last 20 years. Every element in healthcare workflow we have automated or have automated or in the process of being automated, right? So this is kind of an example that if you look at the healthcare workflow, if I'm, for example, for this, consideration, let's think that you guys are like as a college that all of you are connected to is a big giant hospital, right? And all of you are the employees of the hospital. Think about that. And all your professors and everybody's are the physician. Let's look at that, right? Now, what do you need to really function smoothly? You obviously need some huge technology platform to connect all of you, right? to connect your college, connect every single departments, connect your physicians who are professor, for example, and you guys as as a worker of that hospital. So the electronic health record or a practice management is an essential tool that you would normally utilize to connect everybody, right? In fact, it is so. I mean, again, this is as I told you that the technology shift for adaptability is at 10 years after. Most hospitals like Apollo Health and a lot of organized chain hospital already have similar technology adopted, and they have a centralized system, you know, uh, medical information system, or electronic health record system, or like that. But in entire US, entire UK, entire Israel, pretty much everywhere, everyone has adopted. 95% of the providers have adopted some sort of centralized clinical management system, which is called electronic health record. As the name says, electronic health record, that means my file, your file, everybody's files electronically stored. Okay, anything about you, life, histories, your past visits, to every incidences that happens in your health of your life is stored there. To an extent, even if you are wearing a smart watch, or some kind of basically Apple Watch or something that captures your calorie burning to your heart rates to everything, even that can be stored seamlessly into that central file. Now, why would you allow that to happen? Very simple. If you think that you want, no matter where you travel in the world, as the future of the world is a global, village, we call it, right? Because everything is connected world. I am presenting to you guys right now, sitting from New Jersey in US. Okay, and you guys are listening to me from different parts of the, India, or within Bombay or wherever, right? So it's a connected world. Accessibility is everything nowadays. So if you are traveling and you want your health to be taken care properly, then the person who's taking care of you need to know everything about you, your issues in the past. What is, like, for example, you suddenly travel to one part of the India and you have abdominal pain. Now, if you had a history of abdominal pain and known to him, he will avoid, certain diagnostic. He'll say, you know what, like, let me now check that maybe you have appendix, because the previous abdominal ultrasounds and everything showed no symptoms. So you could have that, or you could have a gastritis. So the decision making becomes easier. At the same time, you avoid wasting money, because we know that healthcare, anything in healthcare is all money, right? You have to pay money to somebody, correct? So that adoption of electronic health record makes every department, right, connected together. Why? Because the front office is part of that. Your billing department, the somebody who makes you an invoice. You are admitted to the hospital. You are on the, say, for example, 5 days in the hospital. 5 consultants show you. They were asked for some kind of test, blood work, all that. Finally, when you come out, your entire bill is ready automatically, because every department is putting their services. And as they put the services, your invoice is getting created. Finance department can see how much deposit you gave, what is done, what is not done. Health IT department knows that which user has an access of your file. You say that, I don't want my data, you want to keep certain thing confidential, right? I don't want my data to be accessible to my so-and-so person, okay? So all that element of a management of keeping you healthy can easily happen. Clinical team, right? You had one person came in, like, for example, I'll share my example when and I've been 20 years in US, right? So one time when I was actually, when my father had a bypass, and I was there in Bombay in Asian Heart, right? The Asian Heart founder was actually a ex-physician from Cleveland Clinic in US, right? Cleveland Clinic is one of the topmost clinic in the world when it comes to systems and processes. So he had replicated the similar environment. So every floor had a nurse station. Every consultant, every provider who came to see my dad had to sign in the nurse station that he came. That's a proof. Then he will consult my father, and he will go back and finish his notes, what he did. So the next consultant that came, whatever time we were there, a short time, knew exactly what happened the last time. And that's how it should be across globe, right? Because what if, like, a person A comes to see you and has no clue what person B did? Wouldn't you be tortured, like, asking the same question again and again? So this is where the electronic health record comes into picture. Now, yes, the similar EHR connects the different department in the healthcare side, but there are a lot of individual workflows that needs to be automated as well, correct? And let me take you to the whole kind of once again, kind of relationship. You have a clinical system, right? You have a labs that needs to be connected. You have, obviously pharmacies that needs to be connected, right? You have home health, like for example, you broke your leg and you discharged to home. Now somebody needs to come and give you physical therapy. Now one option is you don't have a mobility, correct? So you would rather have somebody come to you. So home health agencies will come to your house, they send physical therapy and they'll make you treatment. Now all this is where the world is going. World is going about connected care. From the time you go to clinic to the time that you need whatever help you need, there is a seamless integration, correct? Now, the concept of nursing home is not prevalent in India because we are very kind of a family oriented system. But at times when, like for example, if you have elderly parents and your entire family, like husband, wives and everybody's working, the kids are out and the elderly parents are at home without any help and something happens, that could be a disaster. So a lot of places here and across the globe, the elderly parents go to the adult daycare center. They go and stay with a lot of people. They are clinical staff to monitor them. They pick them up, they drop them off home. So while you are working, they are taken to a safe place, keeping them engaged, correct, and being treated there. And those whole concept is coming into picture because obviously the health of your loved one is the topmost priority. Now you went to 5 different places and you want to remember yourself that what did you do. The whole concept of patient portal comes into picture, that me as a patient, I need to log in and see when I went to Bangalore, what happened to me. When I go to Chennai, what happened to me, correct? When I was in Bombay on the other day, I had a dry cough, what happened to me. All this may appear to be futuristic for you guys, but this is already happening now in US, in UK, Israel, everywhere, okay? So I'm not talking something which is 20 years from now. This is already existing. Is it existing in India? Yes, in a smaller portion. In the larger institutes, that means any clinic that is owned by a larger companies, franchises, I call it, that's where it's happening. All the labs that is owned by larger companies in India, 100% it exists, correct? Only thing is missing is a connection between, right now those systems exist as an isolation, right? Because it is one place, lab has it, say pharmacy has it. Probably Indian pharmacy is still way behind in technology. They are still more like you give a script and they go through the list and they would probably only use their computer for invoicing you. They don't use much on the inventory management and all that. Whereas worldwide, the way the pharmacies manage, the moment you get a script is electronically sent to you. Okay, that's why it's called ERX. Okay, this presentation literally defines a future of technology in healthcare across the world actually. Okay, this is the only way healthcare will evolve. There is no other way out. So if you are seeing, if I'm a physician and if I show you and if I say I want to give you Zithromax or antibiotic, I will send an electronic script to pharmacy, correct? Your next door pharmacy around your house. The pharmacy has a computer, receives a script and it keeps your medication ready. You just go there and pay the money and take the medication. The moment you pick up the medication, the provider, which is me, I get a notification back that, okay, he picked up the medication. So I know you are taking that drug. So I have a history of it. Okay. And now question happens, what if you got the same drug? There are certain narcotics, right? Pain management drugs. You can get addicted to that. You get high with that. So they are very harmful because you can get addicted. So a lot of people who use extensive pain management, it's easily available. It's not good. So I want to make sure that yes, you have a tremendous pain due to your injury and you need to take a pain medication which has a narcotics and your chances to get addicted. Now I want the data of every places where you got narcotics filled. So I can query the network of pharmacies across whatever area you are residing and say, but give me the data. Is this guy filling up medication or narcotics from 5 places and really getting addicted? This is a connected world we're talking about. Like in US right now, any provider can literally has a brand new patient, comes to the clinic, he simply puts the patient's information, date of birth, name and all that, and insurance information, and can pull the data from every single pharmacist to see what medication he has been taking in last 10 years without even seeing him for first time. Now that's the beauty of connected health, correct? So obviously, this whole diagram, defines, the immunization registry. That means right now we get like a flu shots, or we get like all the tetanus shots. When you're born, the child has a lot of vaccines. All of us have gone through vaccine schedule. How do you know that what vaccines you had it? We don't have organized registry like that, correct? Now why it is essential? Because if you have one pediatric doctor and he gave a vaccine, he never maintained a record, and he thought he did it and he gave a second time vaccine, it could potentially cause a massive damage to your child. And it has happened, those cases have happened, right? Because of forgetfulness of the provider or the patient, that can happen. But if you had an organized record, you would have a reminder, right? You know that at a 3 months of child, this vaccine is due. 6 months, this vaccine is due. At 2 years, this vaccine is due. Oh, because I have a genetic problem of, this one, I should get another vaccine at the age of 40, correct? Now imagine if the COVID-19 vaccines come out and we all probably required to take it every year. We don't know that, because this virus is potentially going to stay for some time, correct? It's a genetically mutating virus. That means every time it changes its genomes. So the effect of the virus is unknown, every month. You can't predict anything about it, right? So our only option is to potentially either we all get immune to it by, getting it, which is not a feasible option, or coming out with some kind of, break into that, right? So this is where the connected health come into picture. I will give a couple of, or I would say 30-second pause for all the audiences, all the listeners to review this slide, understand the blocks, and if you had any questions, most welcome to note it down, right? Before I get into the next technology. So the first we talked about is the telehealth, right? Second, we talked about the connected health, electronic health record system, which connects to every healthcare places, hospital, nursing home, physical therapy, the labs, immunization, pharmacy, home health, everywhere it connects. That's a system. Concept is universal. Adoptability is regional or country wise, correct? How soon we adopt, it is a matter of how organized we become in healthcare. Now, when I say organized means that right now the clinics are owned by individual doctors. The day the clinics are owned by larger companies who becomes an investor and they create a walk-in urgent care or clinics and the providers are just the employees, that time all this will happen much faster. Why? Because you are now going to say Metro Mumbai urgent care clinics, right? And Metro Mumbai urgent care clinic has got say 100 location entire Bombay. Now as a patient of that, you don't have to go 10 places. You can find the orthopedic doctor there, you can find the gastroenterologist there, you can find your primary care, pediatrician, everyone is there. You have a schedule, you go on the website, you make your appointment, or you just walk in and being seen. Now those 100 location owner Metro clinics, Metro Mumbai clinic, they need to make sure that how many patients they have seen in a weekly basis, what is the revenue, what clinical information we are dealing with, what are the medications they need to dispense, correct? What patients needs more care, that way he doesn't land into hospital. All that part, in order to access, they have to have some kind of system. And that's why when I say organized means that rather than like a mom and pop clinics, smaller clinics, when the clinics become bigger and bigger, or the government eventually comes out with a rule that everybody should have some kind of electronic system, correct? And that's what happened in 2009 in US. It was forced to have the system and everybody is automated right now. It is in Israel like that. It is in UK like that. It's in Canada like that. So almost all countries, including Australia, is like that. In India, we are still in the process, right? So we are right now not forcing it, but as people are expanding, they're adopting it. So this is about, I was talking about the electronic health record, kind of so that you understand at the end of the presentation also has our company website. You can most welcome to visit and get more details how these things work. It tells you the patient portal. That means the best part about the connected health is access to your record on the website. That's important, right? Because that way you can see that, you know, your personal record, that what are my problems, what are my allergies, what are my medication that I've taken, what are my past lab results are trending. For example, if genetically you have a diabetes, you would like to know your HbA1c value, every year at least, correct? To see how it's trending. So that's where my personal chart or similar, access point is very crucial. We talked about the telemedicine. Now let's decide, the next topic is Internet of Medical Things, right? You know that the whole world is controlled by, we call it IoT, Internet of Things. Internet of Things means including a machine like Rotimatic, which is basically a automatic roti making machines, to, the webinar that we are doing. You cannot imagine as of now, I mean, 10 years before is a different story, but in a day-to-day life, we cannot envision a life without internet, correct? So when you say Internet of Things means any devices, any equipments, any machines that you can operate through the internet. The largest manufacturing plant in the world, those machines that operate to run it, automated machines, are controlled by engineers sitting in Germany, UK, United States, everywhere. So half of the plants in India who's manufactured the technology, because India has been very good in technology creation in a way, but creation under the title of some foreign countries, right? So what happens then is most of our manufacturing plants in India are imported technology, even though some of our best engineers would have worked there in those countries, going from India on a project or whatever, but ultimately the ownership is with those companies. So now if you have equipment that fails, like for example, the mask manufacturing, right? So the mass manufacturing, we can do a smaller plants, indigenous, no problem. But the bigger massive scale mass manufacturing can happen through automation. And that device can be controlled by the engineers who created that. So Internet of Things has already been known to us, but now comes Internet of Medical Things. Every device that you use is internet accessible and the data can sync into the electronic health record. Like for example, you took a thermometer temperature, right? You have like contactless thermometer. You took a temperature. Imagine the data of your temperature can transmit electronically or through Bluetooth to your central system or your My Personal Chart, similar kind of website automatically. So every time you are doing an exercise, you do 10,000 steps, data transmits. Okay, you basically are watched. Again, I mean, this is sometimes, when you are in that age group, relating that all this discussion could be difficult because you think, oh, why do I need that, right? But it is always a discussion is about entire age group. You don't need it now. You may need it 20 years later, or your family member can need it tomorrow, correct? So this information is irrespective of your age group. It is what is needed in future for better healthcare. You would like to know that, am I burning enough calories? Okay, I'm counting the calories. Am I eating so much of fried food? So where do you keep the data on? So Internet of Medical Things is all about every single devices, including the EKG, echocardiograms, CT scan, X-rays, ultrasound, everything is connected with each other. Advantage of that is a centralized data repository for all patients, correct? Now, how do you know that Vishal Gandhi goes to Chennai and he goes to Bangalore and he goes to, somewhere else, Ahmedabad? How do you know the same Vishal Gandhi exists? Well, that's why it's called identifying parameters. A lot of countries has given something called unique ID to them, and that's why our P10 number, or what is the PAN card numbers, or we have this I forgot the new ID numbers we got, but similar, all of those, the numbers, unique numbers that belongs to you, by looking at the number, they know that's you, is identified, correct? It's called a central, ID management. In US, it's a social security, correct? So this is how you connect, because if I'm doing an x-ray on you, I will put your unique ID number, and automatically your data will pull up from the government website that this guy is this, correct? Now if I go to the another facility, same thing, I put your first name, last name, your date of birth, and this unique ID number. That's how the data syncs. Now if these devices are IoT enabled, these devices will automatically transmit all the results to a central repository that could be created by privately or by government or whoever, right? So all data syncs one place. Now I can go onto that website, which say example my personal chart, and just simply put my name and date of birth and my ID and authenticates, and it pulls the data. And that's called Internet of Things. Why? Because now I can see when my last EKG was, when my last lab result was, when my last X-ray was, my last, like for example, if a patient has hypertension, like high blood pressure, correct? It is recommended by the World Health, committees, that you should have a once a year EKG. EKG is electrocardiogram, correct? Why? Because there are chances of heart diseases. Now, if you have hypertension, you naturally tend to invite other chronic conditions, which is coronary artery disease. So you may say, okay, now what? Maybe once in 3 years, let me check my blood work and look at my cardiac risk factor, correct? So you want that blood work report to sync somewhere for trending, because you want to see your cardiac risk factor, is it increasing, decreasing, remaining the same. The trending is essential for you, right? And the future, as we are becoming a Google doctor, we all are, the future of healthcare is all about information. Nowadays, it is already started happening. If provider is trying to do something, you question them like, doctor, why are you doing this? Because you research on the Google and you make your own assumption, or you make your own so-called treatment plan that provider should have done for you. And we question them. So Internet of Things is going to change the whole landscape in healthcare, has already done, and is continue to do that. The next element comes is the wonders of artificial intelligence. Now, what is AI? We all know that, correct? AI is basically machine learning, or decision making. Like, it's almost you take off your brain that you have and you stick it up into a programmatic algorithm. That's your AI, correct? So your brain turned into programmatic algorithms, right? Why? Essential because if I don't know how many of you guys know, but most of us, right, what happens in overall health of our life is 90% of the time is genetically driven, okay? And 10% of the time is environmental driven. Environment means your lifestyle. You don't sleep enough. You basically, eat whatever kind of foods. You don't do exercise. So your lifestyle, or you are into some other, form of health hazardous events and activities. So 10% to 20% is a lifestyle. 70 to 80% genetic, right? So for example, if I has a potential that every time in the certain season of the year I'm going to have been allergic, because it's how I'm born with immune system that has reactive to during certain time of the year, during the monsoon, for example, during the winter. No matter what you do, you will bound to happen that. That's why we say, oh, we do yoga, we do all those desi, Ayurveda and all that, trying to cut down those allergies. But at the end of the day, people get a little bit relieving the symptoms, but there is no 100% cure, correct? So AI is more like a predictive analysis. AI gathers data from all over the places and says that, okay, if you were with the lifestyle that you have, okay, if you continue that lifestyle, you're more likely to be having these issues in 10 years from now, versus you remove one parameter that, okay, I'm gonna basically start during this monsoon time, I will not be in the direct rain. I will try to cover myself, or I'll wear the jacket where rain doesn't touch my skin or my nose. Whatever changes you do, how does it impact? Well, that will that effect that you have in 10 years will happen now in 12 years. So this is what AI's role is. AI role is not only essentially predictive analysis, but AI role is also, helping you with the data decision making, because human brain can do a lot of decision making, but handling data we cannot. For example, if I start talking right now, all the COVID-19 numbers, state-wise, county-wise, country-wise, all of those start telling you now. Would you be able to remember that after end of this presentation? Probably no. Maybe 5 or 6 or 10, maybe some 20. But for AI to remember that and do graphical plotation and predict something happening, whether it's a curve is this or that, or it's downward or upward, or when it's gonna be picked. Like they say, India could have picked in this time, US is this time. All this part of predictive analysis using AI. So the artificial intelligence is the future. It is essentially, if I were to define in the simplest term, it is decision making based on the data and trending and certain programmatic reactive algorithm. The machine, so the computer itself learns as it grows more data to do the decision making. Correct? So that's an AI. And what is the relevance in today's life? Every industry is working on AI, including a stock market trading is on AI right now, as of now. Okay, including pretty much every decision making is on AI. So if you go into Amazon and suddenly you go into a Google Chrome and Amazon will start pushing you the product advertisement which you think you might like, it is all based on the AI algorithms. They call it into like a user profile analysis and cookies learning and this and that, but behind the scenes all AI algorithm. That's why once you see something, if you search, like for example, electric toothbrush, no matter where you go, either you go on a Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you suddenly start popping up those ads. That obviously is reading your cookies, but then there is a behind the scene AI algorithm that basically looks at the user profile and the shopping patterns and suggests constantly what you may get attracted with. That includes your taste, includes your money and the budget, everything combined, including your email that you get it as a suggested product, right? It's always AI. The world is AI in future. Obviously the direct messaging and all that, interoperability. Now this element is what? Like for example, I'm like a physician, and you suddenly have like a lot of abdominal pain, and I'm a primary care, or I'm a general physician to take care of you, right? And I want to send you to a gastroenterologist, somebody who take care of the stomach. Now, if I want to send your health record securely, how do I send it? That's where the direct messaging comes into picture. Direct messaging is a point-to-point encrypted secure messaging platform, correct? Now, this is used in financial industry, it is used in attorneys, legal matters, it is used everywhere. Again, in healthcare, wherever in any areas or businesses, any information you share between point A and point B needs to be absolute secure. That's where the concept of interoperability comes into picture, correct? Or direct messaging comes into picture. So you are basically encrypting that information, wrapping it around. We do a zip with a password nowadays in India, right? We zip the folder, we put a password protection, we make an Excel spreadsheet password protected. That is fine, that is good for a smaller share. But when you are sharing a large information, the zip and the Excel password concept don't work. You need a much higher algorithm, because password protection is very small level of security, right? Through a predictive analysis, people can literally crack into a password. We know all that, right? But with direct messaging, which is an absolutely unknown encryption, or they call it a 512-bit encryption, no one can get the data in between, right? Point A to point B, the transmission is secure, receiving is secure, sending is secure, correct? How the hacking happens on the internet, right? Because you are surfing a website and you're putting your credit card, somebody is watching you, you don't realize through that website, and is capturing behind the scene your credit card, and that's how the credit card frauds happen, right? So, whereas that means there is a chances of somebody capturing your info while it's in the transmission process, right? Somebody can capture your info at the receiving end or sending end. While you're sending it, somebody captures it. Whereas this kind of direct messaging enables, it creates almost like a private shield that nobody can enter in during the time of transmission, receiving, and in transit. So that's kind of a technology called direct messaging. Robotic process automation is a future in every part of the world. So AI and RPA, I think everybody has any technology field. I mean, some of you guys could be from a different, everybody probably would not be in technology. I'm not sure what your specializations are in engineering, but the future in any industry, no matter what you do, whether you're in mechanical, civil, electronics, electrical, future of industry evolution is paperless and a people-less processes. Okay, that means no paper and no people. That's the future. So if there is no people, what would happen to your job? Well, your job will be there as long as you're skilled enough and you keep up your knowledge beyond a normal robotic processes can. So if you are a drafter of those processes, if you're an envisioner of those processes, you are long-term, no problem, right? But if you are simply basically a theoretical person and who have no practical what is happening around the world, and you simply are busy trying to be academician, getting the grades and that's it, yes, you have a problem there, because future is going to be changing drastically. When I say a robotic process automation, any and every process that is repetitive, has a cyclic in nature, can be programmed to be done automatically, literally automatically. And we have done that in so many parts. Like for example, if patient goes to a clinic, right? If I want, before the patient arrives, to make sure that patients, all the information is in the system, patients, past visit is there, patients, trended chart with his blood work is there, his weight graph, his height graph, all of those is there. Like suppose you are going to a pediatric clinic, all that process can happen through robotic automation and keep this ready for the provider immediately on the front, correct? Including, so any repetitive task, like think about that, like for example, any processes you can think of that is repetitive in nature, and you can do it with yourself. Like, if I'm like, for example, uploading information, like suppose every day morning, you guys have to upload your assignments to somewhere, correct? And once assignments are uploaded, you have to mark a flag on those assignments. This is completed, right? So you kept your assignment ready in the computer. Now every day you are uploading those assignments everywhere else, correct? Now, for example, the teachers in your institute, every day they have to log into the remote learning environment, log into hundreds of students account, download the assignments and mark it that yes, this completed, and then grade it and all that. So grading part is AI, okay, if you want to use it. But grading part, AI alone may not function. You still need your human brain there. But downloading, marking the tick mark assignment is all that can be a robotic process automation. That means all the teachers, none of the teachers have to do it individually. I can write a robot that can literally log into each and every student's account, download all their assignments, check the assignment topic given whether received or not, and put a flag saying this is received. So your attendance of assignment completion on a timely manner is already done. Now, my AI engine can scrub through the assignment, have a standardized answer and compare those answers if it's objective, that these answers are correct or not, and automatically score that particular student as well. Unless those answers are, subjective, when I say objective is yes, no kind, multiple choices kind is objective. Subjective means something which is a descriptive. That's only when the teacher has to look at that. So all that can be automated. Now think of the possibilities. If that happens, how many people will not be needed? Now this is not to scare anybody, but this is a reality. You need to understand that, correct? The most practices here in healthcare side have cut down 30% of their workforce in last 10 years with adoption of technology and robotic process automation and AI. Most healthcare workforces. Now what happens? Well, they have to up their skills, right? So there are still a lot of audit processes that AI cannot do. There are a lot of processes that robotic automations cannot do. Now, even if you have robots, you need somebody to make sure the robot don't fail. So that as a fail safe, you need a people. That means your knowledge and your skill has to be always one step ahead of what a computer learning can do, right? And that's only way basically the world will evolve. But if you're just a normal, like, or just I will just limit myself to this much and move forward, those youngsters will have a lot of problem in future. Now, okay, obviously the web scraping, digital signature and all that, I will not get into a detail much, as we're almost up the time for 1 hour. But it is almost about data mining, right? Future is data. There are thousands of, like, for example, on my smartphone, I have an app that can read a data from 100 news sources, okay, and give me a topic. So if I type that machine learning, it can go into 100 publications and pull all the articles from the machine learning and tell me that what are the highly rated articles. So I don't waste my time into going through everything, but I only read the top 5. This is a web scraping or digital signature. Any mundane data extraction job, like for example, if I want to see that in last 6 months, all the emerging technology articles that came out published, okay, how many of them is talking about artificial intelligence? Okay, your web scraping can immediately get you data that, okay, in Bombay, 5 sources had 500 times mentioned that, okay, and this article has the highest reader reviews or rankings. So this kind of scrapping is pretty relevant nowadays. Creates a centralized data repository, creates a data analytics, and a lot of people in publications are using it, news is using it, everywhere people are using it. That, okay, so there's all defined algorithms and all of those for that. So we'll just kind of brief summary of that. The messaging is important, automated messaging, right? Why it is important future is because we all know that we need a reminder of some sort, right? If you have classes, we put an alarm, right? If you have exams, we put an alarm, or if you have to do something, we do a to-do list. Any form of to-do list or reminders or calendar invite is all part of your reminder system. Today you are attending this webinar, some of you are attending, you got a reminder that this day, this webinar is there. So the technology is driving to say, okay, as a human brain is occupied with 1 million different subjects and the thoughts every moment, reminder is the only option to make things happen. So this is a phenomenal adoption across globe that's happening, that people get reminder through fax, text, phone, secure email. And right now you don't see that much happening, but as the technology evolves, you will see that happening. And I'm pretty sure that your institute is sending you some form of reminder somewhere and using some of those already. But the adoption of the automated messaging in every part, healthcare to almost, is inevitable, I would say, correct? So that's about it. I think we are right on time, 7:22. I mean, we have still some time left, but I gave you a brief journey of emerging technologies, summarizing it to telemedicine, to have centralized electronic health record system, to pretty much the Internet of Things, to artificial intelligence, to robotic process automation. If you guys want to learn more about it, this is a website, clinicspectrum.com. We either own it or we have created technologies in almost every aspect of healthcare automation. So we have a lot of products. You can understand those products. Feel free to question me if any. You can always reach out through your teachers beyond this presentation if any questions that I could be helpful. Otherwise, I mean, everything is pretty much here. These are the sites, these are the companies. My EHR company that we own is DigiDMS, that tells you the whole and everything about electronic health records, how the connected health will work. Clinicspectrum is where other technology automation products are. Our local business in India, which a lot of people know, we have like probably 500-600 employees there, is healthcare informatics. So this is where we are. And that's why, we kind of consider ourselves as a hybrid workflow model. We are like leader in US and have probably more than 1,000 clinic as our client nationally. So that summarizes our presentation in emerging technologies. And I would now leave it to.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the spreading information about the medical aspect that we can use in engineering. Now we have few questions from the audience, sir. May I ask you now?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the first question is, are EHR standards uniform across the world?
So electronic health record standards as a basic functionality are uniform. What is expected out of him, but the coding side, some people say, oh, I want this technology in a certain languages. Some people say in certain languages. So as of now, the diagnosis and procedure are universal. They call it international classification of disease, and standard procedure terminology CPT is universal. Why? Because if I go to London and if I say I have a COVID-19, you know, the terminology could be different, right? So the ICD-10 is how the people know the worldwide, correct? There is a coded language to define. So those standards are same. Then interoperability, that means how a lab can interact with an EHR or how a radiology center can interact with the EHR. Those standards are HL7 messaging standard. They are pretty much universal because they are the only few companies who make it, and you adopt and you basically connect instantaneously. But requirement of modules, what functionality it can happen, that is country driven, correct? The standards that we follow in US is very high standard. If adopted in India, it will take long time for people to adopt. So what has happened is and that happened in US also until 2009, most smaller companies created their own electronic health record and started selling it, and they had a customer base, but they were not interacting with each other. A customer of one EHR to migrate to another EHR was practically impossible. So you're stuck for life. And that is already happening in India right now. But eventually, if not now, 10 years down the road, government has to come with a regulatory mechanism to have, okay, if you guys want to sell the electronic health record software, you need to get these 10 things in place and you need to get certified by government that it has it. So that things have been happening everywhere now. Dubai adopted it now. Australia is adopting. Canada has already adopted. So the future is there that there would be a centralized, requirement queue that most EHR would be like this, correct?
Okay, so the next question is, can you please tell something more about connected medical devices?
Okay, so the connected medical devices, like every equipment that you go, like for example, let's look at that right now. One must have gone to X-rays, or ultrasounds or like that, right? So X-rays and ultrasound machines are Internet, of Things, IoTs. I mean, the future all technologies are all IoTs, correct? That means X-rays and ultrasound have a format called PAC. Okay, so the using a PAC format, those images can be transmitted right into the central repository or electronic health record. And so most RIS, they call it a radiology information systems, or when it is used, same EHR used in radiology is called RIS. If it is used in the lab, it's called LIS, laboratory information system, but functionality are essentially the same, centralized clinical data management. So those RIS are connected to those devices using a PAC, which is a PAC is a kind of connected protocol for image transfers. And those images are transmitted to the EHR. That's why the global radiologists, like as of now, Bangalore is a big hub where so many images from US are transmitted to the radiologists who are board certified in US, sitting in Bangalore. Those radiologists who are Indian, who have got their license, here it is a radiologist, practice for 5 years, 10 years. They move back to India for family reasons. Now they do a teleradiology because those images transmit using PAC system. So the Internet of Things are basically every devices, whether it's EKG machine, is ultrasound, X-rays, laboratory machines, all the data, including your home health devices. Like for example, you have like medication dispenser, right, which is basically reminds you and tells you that, okay, now it's time for you to take this medication, that medication. You have a programmable dispenser which automatically sends you a reminder on your text and dispenses the medications to you, correct? Those things are there because at elderly people at 65, when you are taking probably morning this, afternoon this, after lunch this, before lunch this, a lot of medications to manage your chronic conditions, you need some kind of reminder. You will forget otherwise. And this is where the Internet of Things work, medical things.
Okay, so the last question for you is, what are the application available for automating pharmacies? Is it available with Clinicspectrum? And if so, what is the cost?
We are essentially automation for clinics. We are not for the pharmacy. Pharmacy have their own softwares. We connect to the pharmacy, but we are essentially 100% automation for clinics and the hospital. That's what we do.
Okay, so that's all. I would like to thank you from on behalf of all my participants for answering them, and I would like to give a small token of appreciation from us. This is the certificate of appreciation for you, sir, and I thank you a lot for coming and talking to all the attendees here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye, sir.